Salutations. I don't know why you opened that door. I escaped years ago. I had originally planned to revisit this topic. I figured I'll take a few weeks for me to get my thoughts together. And then comes March and I realized my last video was published in November. Oops. I wanted to finish analyzing the Anten 7 from Outlaw Star, specifically what I thought of them as a team and what I thought of them as individual members. I also wanted to collect my previous 3 videos in a single spot, so the large part of this video will be my previous 3. If you want to jump to my analysis, there should be a time code down below. With that out of the way, let's begin. Within the K-Pirates Guild, there's an entire group of assassins known as the Anten 7. Now, the K-Pirates Guild are a serious threat in all of their appearances. Seriously, in Jean's first encounter with the K-Pirates, he's forced to flee his planet, his whole freaking planet. The second encounter with the K-Pirates ended with the death of Jean's mentor and very special friend Hilda. His third encounter, Jean is almost killed and, once again, he's forced to flee from Sentinel-3, the same planet that he fled from the earlier encounter. These guys made the main character literally leave a planet twice. And all of this happened before the Anten 7 were actually introduced. Now, the Anten 7 were originally introduced in episode 15 of the anime. The leader of the K-Pirates Guild put out a hit on Jean Starwind and gathers all 7 of them to relay his orders. Well, 6 of the 7. One of the Anten 7, a man going by the name of Shimi, was already on Jean's trail. So picture this. One day, Jean is just sitting around waiting for work when a cloaked man approaches him. This man introduces himself as Shimi and challenges Jean to a duel the following day. Jean's cocky, so asks, why not just get it over with right now? Shimi says, no, tomorrow. That quick draw, though, shakes Jean. So much so that he behaves like an absolute twat to the resident nice girl. But before calling it a night, Jean decides that he wants to have a drink alone. So he decides to go out to a public place to drink alone. While out, Jean happens to meet with an old man by the name of Leilong. Jean doesn't know it at this time, but this is the real Shimi. The two have a deep conversation about life and death. Eventually, they both turn in for the night. The next day, Jean faces off with the fake Shimi. Jean wins, but is injured in the process. Leilong shows up afterwards, introduces himself as the real Shimi, and challenges Jean to a duel. This is when the real fight begins. Leilong has better gear, better skills, and isn't suffering from a broken rib. Jean tries firing missiles, bazookas, and his caster at Leilong, and just barely manages to get through the man's energy shield. This is the equivalent of going through a boss and finding out he has another health bar. My friends, I'm calling hacks. So Leilong has Jean dead to rights, but then Jean's friends show up. These aren't just members of Jean's crew, these are Jean's friends, Jean's nakama, and together with the power of friendship, they will defeat the K-Pirates.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So, Leilong has Jean dead to rights. However, the resident nice girl puts herself between Jean and Leilong. Unfortunately for Leilong, the K-Pirates need Melfina alive, so in order to avoid potentially killing her, Leilong offers to finish the battle off with a quick draw duel, just like old cowboys. Jean accepts, not like he had any other choice, to be honest. He was out of friends, out of weapons, and running low on bones to break. My friends, this is normally the point where the character with superior reflexes should theoretically win the fight. Leilong had everything going for him. Jean's only advantage in this fight was that Leilong may have gotten winded from the beating he gave all of Jean's friends, you know, when they were figuratively running into his fists. But then, the unthinkable happens.
So I'm finished too. I'm dying because of a faulty gun. Talk about bad luck.
Leilong's gun jams. This dude was running through the main cast and was only defeated because of a faulty gun. Ladies and gentlemen, I call hacks. After the fight, Jean buries Leilong and goes home with his crew. Though he technically won the fight, Jean is left with the horrible awareness that there were 6 more of these guys left. But that's a future problem. In the pre-credits stinger, Leilong digs himself out of the grave. Turns out, he managed to survive the gunshot. So, what the hell happened? Remember back when Jean's friends showed up in the fight and I jokingly started talking about the power of friendship? Well, it turns out that the power of friendship came in clutch after all. Having all of Jean's friends figuratively throw themselves at his clenched fists made Leilong have a change of heart. So Leilong threw the fight. Figuring that the K-Pirates might be a little sore with him, Leilong decided to get out of Dodge. Maybe he'd become an outlaw himself and get his own crew. There's an old saying, beware the old man in a profession where men die young. Lady Iraga is the next member of the Anten 7 to show up. So imagine this, you are an elite member of a notorious space pirate crew. Your boss orders you to eliminate some outlaw and you, like a professional, travel to the outlaw's last known position to get shit done. But, as it turns out, there's a martial arts tournament going on nearby. What's a girl to do? I won't go over this episode in too much detail, but the plot goes like this. Jean has a friend by the name of Fred Lowe. A woman by the name of Reiko is in love with Fred Lowe. Fred is a happy bachelor who has no interest in marriage. Fred, instead of coming out and saying he doesn't want to be married, agrees to marry Reiko, but only if she wins the strongest woman in the universe competition 5 times consecutively. Fred figured even if she gets lucky once, there's no way she'll win 5 times in a row. There's no way. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may have guessed, by the start of episode 18, Reiko has already won the competition the last 4 years, and she's a favorite to win the 5th. That, my friends, is dedication. This woman knows what she wants and is doing everything she can to get it. So Fred begs Jean to do anything and everything within his power to make sure Reiko loses the competition. Jean, like a true friend, dresses up in drag and challenges Reiko in the tournament. This show came out back in 1998. I feel obligated to mention that for some reason. So Jean is facing off against Reiko. Unfortunately, despite being fairly well built, Jean isn't much of a martial artist. In fact, his only true skill is sexual harassment. Once Reiko gets her hands on Jean, she takes him out easily. So, it seems like Fred is gonna be forced to marry Muscle Mommy, but as luck would have it, Iraga manages to beat Reiko off screen in 19 seconds.
Flawless victory.
Yeah, the whole purpose of that story was for the Wharf effect. So, with the actual job done, Jean and the crew decide to enjoy the remainder of the tournament. After defeating Reiko, Iraga was obviously a favorite to win the tournament. However, there is another girl in the competition who goes by the moniker of Firecat. Firecat is definitely not Jean's crewmate, Aisha Clan, for you see, the Katara race has been banned from this competition. Which, as an aside, is totally racist. The Katara shouldn't be banned from an entire competition just because the last one that took part in it accidentally transformed into a werebeast and caused 984 fatalities and over 5,000 serious injuries. Apparently, this person got a bit too excited, transformed into a monster, and ended up attacking several members of the audience. That cannot be a good look, ladies and gentlemen. So, no, this is important. This is not Aisha Clan. This is Firecat. Firecat. Eventually, Iraga and Firecat make it to the finals. Iraga notices that Firecat is friends with her target, Jean Starwin, so she puts in 100%. After a short scuffle, Iraga decides to finish off Firecat, Mortal Kombat style, but Firecat manages to get out of her hold. Feet bros be eating good tonight. Firecat puts Iraga in her own hold and tries to force Iraga to submit, but Iraga accidentally reveals that inside her are two wolves, and both of them are horngry. With her cover blown, Iraga decides that playtime's over and goes straight for Jean. However, Firecat... I'm sorry, can we rewind that for just a moment? However, Firecat lifts her mask and reveals that she's actually Aisha Clan. And Aisha also has a beast inside of her, and that beast isn't into NTR. During the fight between the crew and the pirates, a fire starts in the arena. A combination of that, gunfire, and the realization that they are so close to a Katara causes the crowd to flee. The two werebeasts keep fighting even with the arena burning down around them. We never do get to see the complete fight between Aisha and Iraga, but ultimately, Aisha stands victorious.
Flawless victory.
The next one is the Lolly. She is introduced as a master of space combat with cats. And personally, I fucking hate her. Specifically, Hanmayo pilots a grappler ship called the Tororata. Grapplers are spaceships that have arms. The Outlaw Star is also a grappler. Unlike most grapplers, the Outlaw Star included, the Tororata arms can separate from the main body, which means that her opponent have to worry about 3 separate opponents, not one. Each of these arms is controlled by one of Hanmayo's cats. So Hanmayo shows up in episode 20. The crew is coming back from a boring mission when confronted by the Tororata. The male cat speaks with the crew, so naturally they assume the pilot of the ship is a male. The first battle does not go well for the Outlaw Star. Despite the ship being powered by fan service, the crew is forced to retreat to a nearby colony. During this time, Jim and Jean are constantly sniping at each other. Despite being much younger, Jim is the responsible one of the two, while Jean regularly spends his money drinking with women. So Jim goes over the combat data in order to develop a strategy to fight the Tororata. After working most of the night, Jim takes a walk around the colony and happens upon Hanmayo with her 2 cats. Their conversation is short, but it's clear that there's an instant attraction between the two. So the two agree to meet later on that afternoon. Since Jean is something of a ladies' man and Jim's de facto big brother, Jim decides to ask Jean for some lady advice.
Rules? Alright, this is your first step toward being a man, so feel free to ask the pro anything you want.
One moment, please. What is wrong with you? Bro, you should be on a list. So Jim settles on bringing her some flowers. The gift is well received, so the two spend most of the afternoon together and agree to meet again the following day. The next day arrives and the Outlaw Star takes off, fully expecting to be confronted by the Tararata. They aren't disappointed. I'm gonna remind you that neither Jim nor Hanmayo know that the other is on the opposing ship. Hanmayo is eager to take out the Outlaw Star so that she can prepare for her date with Jim. And because of Jim's strategy, the Outlaw Star manages to shoot down the Tararata.
A dead ship. The Tararata won't respond. Kemi, Mata.
My friends, the irony is literally causing me psychic damage. When the crew returns to the space colony, Jim runs over to the spot he's supposed to meet Hanmayo, but obviously she doesn't show up. Jim is obviously crushed by this. Jean's there to comfort Jim. Though we never find out what Jean says to Jim, the two end the episode on good terms. There are probably many lessons that the creators may have imparted in this episode. There's a lesson about the fleeting nature of young love. There's a lesson about brotherhood somewhere in here. But I would bring attention to this lesson above all others. If Hanmayo had been using dogs, she would have won. The fourth member of the Anten 7 to show up is Tobigera, and Tobigera is trash. This is basically the Yamcha of the group. Tobigera first appears in episode 23 of the series, admittedly my favorite episode of the series, and the episode that introduces the greatest mentor in all of anime. I did an entire video on this subject, please feel free to check it out. Anyway, Tobigera is basically a non-entity in this episode. He shows up to assassinate Jean, but keeps getting thwarted in some truly ridiculous ways. One moment, he'll casually try to sneak up to Jean on a train, then the conductor will randomly fill up the train car with spring water, and Tobigera will be swept away in the flow of the water. You know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Tobigera does show up again in the 3-episode finale of the series, and is actually the last member of the Anten 7 to be defeated, but not by the heroes. Tobigera is forced to stay on the ship while the big bad and the other 3 members left alive go out to fight Jean and his crew. Then the big bad possesses the ship and Tobigera dissolves into orange goo. The main characters don't even know that this dude existed. Heck, Jean's crew is probably still waiting for the number 7 to show up. Anyway, we're moving on. The final 3 members of the Anten 7 show up in the earlier episodes in the series, but they are only named in episode 25. Episode 25 is also the episode that they are all killed. They each serve as opponents for Jean, Suzuka, and Aisha, the 3 main fighters of the Outlaw Star crew. Unfortunately, all 3 of them suffer from the same issue. Despite being villains for a single episode, Leilong, Iraga, and Hanmayo at least manage to get some level of characterization, despite their short appearance. As you can guess, for characters that have to share a single episode, these 3 have minimal amounts. Yet, all 3 somehow managed to leave a better impression than some people. Let me set the stage. There are 3 factions trying to get to the Galactic Ley Line: the Outlaw Star crew, the K-Pirates, and the McDougalls, who, for the purposes of this video, don't matter. Due to some defense mechanism at the Galactic Ley Line, everyone is teleported to different areas of the map of the final stage. First one up is Hamushi. If there is one thing that is Jean's kryptonite, it's all women. Literally all women. Jean once stood around ignoring an obvious bomb countdown because of an OnlyFans promotion.
Yeah, forget it.
You still watching me? You guys really are the biggest idiots I think I've ever seen. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Blessed be the great sage Urt. Latam.
Latam.
So, the only thing that we know about her prior to this episode is that she's considered a seductress, which does not come up during her fight with Jean. What isn't stated is that she is a powerful spellcaster, able to match the power output of Jean's caster. Bro, your jacket disintegrated. How is the rest of you so clean? So Jean fires 2 more shells at Hamushi, but she uses her magic to negate the effects. So Jean's greatest disadvantage in this fight is that he's only good for about 7 rounds, while Hamushi could presumably go for a lot longer. But Jean happened to receive training from the great sage Urt. Pulling out a number 4, Jean fires on Hamushi. This is the first time Jean has ever fired a number 4, so there's definitely an expectation that it will at least do a little damage.
Those did enjoy a good squeeze.
Also, and please forgive my language, what the fuck was that? So, how do you guys think Hamushi compares to the other members of the Anten 7? Personally, I feel that much like her characterization, her threat level was compressed. Haha, subscribe to my channel. The next pirate to show up is Hitoriga. Listen to me, do not Google that name. So, Hitoriga is officially introduced in episode 25 of the series. This Leatherface-looking psycho has some history with Suzuka. Prior to episode 25, Suzuka stated that she was only teaming up with Jean because he kept running into the K-Pirates and she had some beef with them. As it turns out, her vendetta was with Hitoriga specifically. It's revealed that Hitoriga killed Suzuka's family. It's never explained who the family is, parents, siblings, husband, children, who knows. It's just explained that Hitoriga killed them. A revenge arc is not uncommon in anime. We see them all the time. Some of the most memorable characters in anime are trying to get revenge on people who killed their loved ones. What makes Hitoriga a notable example is that somehow he is the most twisted. Why? Because after killing her family, Hitoriga made himself look like Suzuka. Let me say that one more time. First, this man murdered her family. Then he, presumably using plastic surgery or some magical variation of it, made himself look like Suzuka. What the fuck? How is this the most crooked anime plot line involving somebody named Hitoriga? This is like the worst incel love story I've ever heard. First the dude gets rejected, then he shows up at school looking like the girl that rejected him. Bro, have you tried asking another girl out? If you're having that much trouble, you could have gone to an entirely different planet. Hell, I would have judged you less if you had gone sniffing around another species. Not gonna lie, the lizard girls are looking kinda fine. You could have tried one of those. So, Suzuka and Hitoriga fight for a bit. Neither seem to have the upper hand. Then Suzuka pulls out a new sword technique, a move she created just for him. She calls it Crimson in the English dub. In Japanese, I assume that can be translated to no means no. In episode 25, this dude only had a total screen time of 3 minutes 18 seconds and somehow left one of the biggest impressions of all the 7. The final member of the Anten 7 is Jukai. He was Aisha's final opponent in the series. When everyone was separated in this episode, Jukai and the Big Bad end up near each other. Jukai uses his Tao magic to transport the Big Bad directly to the finish line. Sometime later, he confronts Aisha. Jukai uses Tao magic to transform into a tornado. Aisha transforms into her werecat form. We really do not see how the fight plays out, so it's difficult for me to even rate 10 out of 10 greatest fight in all of anime. Netro vs Meruem, more like Netro vs there wasn't any naked girls in that fight, so it was worse, okay? To Yukai's credit, he manages to knock out Aisha in her werebeast form, something that even Iraga, in her own werebeast form, couldn't accomplish. And let's not forget, Aisha only fought Iraga after taking part in a tournament, and he almost managed to defeat her. When I first watched this anime some 20 years ago, I really liked this villain organization. Yeah, even Tobigera. Now, I just feel like they're wasted potential. Also, I don't even know why these 7 aren't even a named group. They're in the K-Pirates, and presumably it's the big bad that formed the Anten 7, but I don't know why. You never see them actually all working together. Leilong, Iraga, Hanmayo, and Tobigera tried to attack the Outlaw Star Crew alone. Hamushi, Hitoriga, Jukai, and Tobigera do team up for one fight against a rival space pirate faction, but we don't really get to see much of it though, and we certainly never get to see all 7 of them be dispatched on a mission and see them working together, unlike say the Akatsuki from Naruto, who regularly work in groups of 2, and regularly the cells do team up to do bigger missions like say sealing the tailed beast. We, as I keep saying, we never really get something like that with the Anten 7, so why these guys are a named group is really a mystery in this particular case. But I guess that's fine. With that out of the way, I did want to rank each individual member. Leilong takes the top spot by virtue of being the one I find the most interesting. Also, the fact that he was the only one to actually defeat the Outlaw Star crew, that he threw the fight is the only reason Jean walked away from that episode. My only complaint is that I would have loved to have seen more of his backstory, which honestly is a complaint I would have for the other 6 members of the 7. Hanmayo ranks next. Like Shimi, she was also close to wiping out the whole crew, but couldn't quite get the win at the end, which eventually led to her downfall. That she's a child prodigy and piloting starships is interesting, and I would have loved to have known how she got as good as she did, especially her relationship with her co-pilots Kemi and Mata. I also found her relationship with Jim to be cute, despite Jean's best efforts to mess that up. Overall, great, just not quite as good as Leilong. Iraga and Hitoriga rank next for me. Iraga had her own episode, but the episode itself didn't really focus on her. We never got to find out what she is. I originally thought she was a Katara just like Asia, but the wiki says she's something else. Her fight with Asia was probably one of the better fights in the series, but we never got to see the end of it, only the results. Should be noted that this is a moment that Jean actually gets some respect for Asia. She's really treated as more of a butt monkey throughout the earlier episodes. Hitoriga's relationship and backstory with Suzuka made him a compelling character for me, and the show managed to do that while splitting his screen time with 2 other members of the 7, plus the big bad. Imagine if they got a chance to just put him alone in his own episode. His face, again, this dude has got to be one of the most twisted individuals I've ever seen on an anime. I'm gonna give Hamushi and Jukai the next spots. They're both obviously powerful in their own rights, but we get next to nothing for their backstory. Hamushi could have been a little higher, but I do feel she got wasted more than any other member. It seemed when she's first introduced, it seems like Hamushi is a Black Widow style character, the Spider and not the Marvel character. However, we never get to see her in this role. Would have been interesting to see her and Jean come to blows in a sitting-like setting, especially if she had tried to seduce him first. Would have been a great lesson to Jean to drop his womanizing ways prior to the final fight, but alas. Jukai's only characterization is his fanatical loyalty to the big bad. Not quite enough to change ranks, though. Not really quite enough of a characterization to put him higher in the rankings, though. Finally, we have Tobigera. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This dude is a Looney Tunes character in his introductory episode. He didn't get a backstory, he was killed off by his own boss, and the main cast didn't even know who he was. Heck, considering they know the Anten 7 were after him, there's a good chance they finished the series still thinking that guy will probably eventually show up. Anyway, that's really all I had to say on that. Hey, thank you for watching my video today. If you have enjoyed it, please give me a comment down below, like the video, and if you have enjoyed my random ramblings, please feel free to subscribe to the page. Peace.